Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast with me, your host, ImperialDane, Bane of the Allied Forces. And today we have for you a 1 versus 1 on Beaux Lowlands. Yes, indeed, we are having a return to the Lowlands as the Allied Forces are once more pressing towards Germany and, of course, liberating France from the wehrmacht. Of course, the wehrmacht, not being awfully keen on this, have sent in the glorious ImperialDane to hold this, being sent in command of the Ausklangsabteilung of the 116th Panzer Division, the actual division, not the clan. And they shall be ready to show those Yanks what's for, possibly with some support from other units nearby, and who shall be opposing them. It shall be Idevil666, certainly no illusions there about where his faith lies, or at least he's into heavy metal. And he shall be leading the 4th Infantry Division, and shall probably be giving quite a good fight for himself. That's rather why I recall this game. So engineers all about, not setting up barracks, it looks like. No, instead going straight for the east, it seems. Ready to run past the machine gun emplacement. The usual, get as many Panzer Grenadiers out from the start as usual. Start for me. 2 Panzer Grenadier teams. I'll probably be getting the Gewehr 43 from the first one. Again, nothing unusual there. Engineers continuing perhaps to move east, not getting any barracks. No, apparently not. Instead focusing rather heavily on the east territory there. Shall be interesting to see how this evolves. Panzer Grenadiers moving here as well. This tends to be one of the major sort of points of conflict early on, and so I usually send my Panzer Grenadiers here as the Panzer Elite to sort of spot any, and plus this tends to be a rather good spot to catch anyone moving in. So of course, plenty of advantages there. Engineers moving about here, not taking these areas though right away it seems. No, what do they have planned instead? Laying down barbed wire. Now this is of course a bit interesting. He's wanting to prevent me from moving about here, and of course harassing these 2 points, and of course blocking this off is rather an easy way to of course achieve this. And of course this will force me to move through here, which is a bit more defensible for him, in particular if he sits up in this building. But of course that rather depends on him going weapon support in, and no going barracks. And what is this? Tank traps this early on seems a bit excessive. It's not like a Kettenkratz going to crash through the barbed wire. It's a bit too tiny for that, and the driver is a bit too exposed. He's more than likely to get caught up if he tried. So that's not really a possible solution, but engineers finally continuing the west, but still lots of engineers here. Laying down tank traps at libitum. Rather heavy with them again, sort of expecting for me to just crash through here. Perhaps would have been better to just lay down some barbed wire and then focus the engineers and beginning to take this territory as quickly as possible. But that's just my assessment of things. Panzer Grenadiers raiding here. In case any riflemen or engineers sneak through, they will find themselves with a nasty surprise in the form of several Panzer Grenadiers. Some of those with Gewehr 43s holding the ones up actually upgraded free, while the other ones are seizing territory. Not the best job, but at the same time sort of might as well, since they're basically waiting for the enemy. And finally going to spot something here, I think, not entirely sure. Riflemen moving about. Kampfgruppe company going up. Generally like having an infantry half-track, in particular in this map, since it is rather large, and of course this rather suits the infantry half-track. Also a rather fun thing to note about these buildings, and they are rather much like bunkers, yet they can't really be used like it still. And a nice company sign right there. And American infantry moving here, and of course just as I'm moving all of my Panzer Grenadiers towards the center, these chaps are coming under fire. Riflemen marching in, opening up. Panzer Grenadiers might not be in the best of situations for that, might want to retreat, and of course immediately uphold off my other Panzer Grenadiers from the center. Engineers also moving towards the munitions point there. Will of course be interesting to see how that goes, if they will be caught by the elite Panzer Grenadieren. Kettenkratz moving about here, and infantry half-track on the way, always good to support. Infantry with Sonderkraftfahrzeug 250, made by the D-Mark company. believe the leichte Schützenpanzerwagen, light infantry wagon. It was, or armored wagon. It was basically used to support in reconnaissance elements. Although in some cases where the larger Hanomaks or Schützenpanzerwagens or Sonderkraftfahrzeugs 595 couldn't be used, these would be substituted instead to Panzer Grenadier divisions. Again, the Germans weren't really. And that's my mother. And back to the action. Again, my apologies, that was my mother calling. And we are seeing a slight engagement here between engineers and the Kettenkrad. The Kettenkrad, rather realizing he is unarmed and quickly dashes out of there. Probably wishing he had actually been given a gun of some sort, at least a sidearm. But High Command decided against it. After some incidents that shall not be mentioned. Kettenkrad moving about, moving towards the center, and half-track quickly getting armed up with some Panzer Grenadiers with Gewehr 43s, moving towards the center. And the same are the American riflemen forcing the Kettenkrad back. Infantry half-track will probably encountering this rifleman forcing back these engineers, Panzer Grenadiers I mean. Although they are of course technically riflemen since they are equipped with rifles. Kettenkrad continuing to be a bit of a nuisance. Riflemen moving across the bridge. Something I'm not entirely sure. Just some nondescript French bridge. Half-track continuing the hunt for amerikanische Soldaten. And apparently just stopping there. Instead, taking a detour since it does spot something's going on here. A bit of harassment from some engineers. Deciding to catch them out in the open. More of this delicious firepower. And there we go. Opening up. Engineers taking quite a bit of fire. Riflemen moving towards here. Panzer Grenadiers taking this victory point. Half-track moving in to support. And Panzer Grenadiers are quick to get into the barn despite this not perhaps being the best point. One rifleman goes down. Half-track moving in, opening up. Gewehr 43s, light machine gun and Karabiner 90 Kurz just opening up. Catching some of all these riflemen in the opening, doing quite a bit of damage. Anti-tank half-track out as well, since I'm seeing absolutely no BARs on the riflemen. Thus, I can usually predict there's going to be an armored car very soon. Of course, still only 2 rifleman teams and 4 engineer teams. Of course, all these engineers doing quite a bit of harassment. Of course, with Panzer Grenadiers, you can usually take one team and then clear out these engineers. And of course, the Kettenkrad can move about and sort of negate the harassment a bit. 4 Panzer Grenadier teams so far, 1 infantry half-track and an anti-tank half-track. Hooray! We of course have to see how this will evolve.
Are grabbing our territory.
Not entirely sure what happened there with the sound. My apologies if it's actually noticeable. And we are seeing the motor pool coming up. Plenty of engineers doing their best to swiftly erect it. And half-tracks moving in here. Catching these engineers out in the open. Not looking good. American infantry force moving in though. Half-tracks not standing out too good. Not too quick to turn around like that. But opening up. Panzer Grenadiers getting out just in case they need to actually slow down any infantrymen and prevent any sticky bombs from flying. And there we go. Suppressive volley. Focus fire from the anti-tank half-tracks flying, sending 1 infantryman flying into the river, the stream. Further riflemen getting cut down and killed. Quite some losses for the riflemen. I believe that was 6 men in fact cut down by the Panzer Grenadiers engineers. And looks like another rifleman team has in fact hit the field, supporting some engineers. No flamethrowers though, and no mines actually, quite interestingly. So far only basic fortification work has been here, and we are in fact seeing an observation post, and this is just absolutely excessive. So much barbed wire, so many tank traps just to protect this point. And of course there's just one tiny detail which of course can entirely ruin this. I could in theory just take this point and it would all be in vain. Sure, I might not be able to get to it, but neither would he. And engineers coming under fire from Panzer Grenadiers out here. Engineers not looking too well despite their submachine guns having close. Will probably lost to the elite Panzer Grenadieren. Engineers pushing through here as well, and we are seeing a bit of harassment from engineers here and there. Again using his engineers to just sort of harass. Going for Luftwaffe and going straight for the Luftwaffe Feld Divisions of the 17th, sending in some of their troops to support. Very dashing chaps in their camouflage uniforms. rather like them that way. And of course they're rather cheap infantry, 260 manpower, quite cheap to reinforce as well. They're basically false grenadiers, except they can't get MP40s. They can lay down defensive structures of slightly larger caliber, and they can actually get some offensive veterancy. And riflemen charging in here, coming under fire from the Panzer Grenadiers. One team forced to retreat already, but looks like the Panzer Grenadiers will have to retreat as well. Small engagement here. Anti-tank gun is up. Luftwaffe Felddivision troops moving in, cutting down the engineers with apparently Luftwaffe precision. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but opening up, charging in after the anti-tank gun. And infantry half-track though is lost most tragically, but the Luftwaffe continue their hunt. Opening up on the anti-tank half-track. And Panzer Grenadiers moving to seize a bit of territory. American riflemen pushing in towards the east rather heavily. No anything to hold them back. And calling in further Luftwaffe squad, as I have sort of an idea to what will happen if you get a lot of them, or at least relatively a lot of them. Trying to use them more as an actual light infantry force. Engineers coming under fire from the Luftwaffe troops. Engineers perhaps taking quite a few losses, yes indeed. Luftwaffe scoring more kills for the fatherland. Quite impressive. And the Luftwaffe troops basically shouting out in German. Not entirely sure what's going on. Riflemen charge again. Luftwaffe in light cover, where they also kill some riflemen and gain some further kills. No, the Luftwaffe are taking kills. In fact, T-17 moving in. Forces here will have to retreat. Panzer Grenadiers taking quite a bit of fire. Down to low health. And I don't believe I have anything to actually counter this T-17 after my anti-tank half-track was lost. No, I do have that anti-tank half-track. Of course, that was the infantry half-track. Silly me. T-17 though getting immobilized, and for some reason I do believe we have what is called a bug. It's not really immobilized. It just continues a little trip, and the anti-tank half-track continues the hunt. Bit of engagement here, and here in fact looks like, yes, indeed, a Luftwaffe Felddivision squad cut down an entire rifleman team. I do believe the team was actually quite wounded, but still, quite impressive. 6 kills, only 2 losses. Certainly something a bit to brag about, but those Luftwaffe Felddivision. And of course, be aware that these flak feelings in the base are quite devastating to any sort of light vehicles. Of course, he didn't know, and now it's a nice bonfire right in front of the headquarters. Able to provide a bit of place for me to roast some sausages over an open fire. Panzer Grenadiers though getting cut down. Riflemen charging across open territory, although it looks like the Panzer Grenadiers might win this with those Gewehr 43s nearby. Anti-tank half-track though caught out in the open by the anti-tank gun, due to me being a bit caught up over here. A bit more action actually going on there as far as I'm concerned. Now Americans pushing through here. Riflemen and engineers. Another T-17 to replace the one lost in the fire. And we are seeing a Hotchkiss coming out from some armor replacement battalion. There were a few of those, and they did use in large parts actually Hotchkiss tanks. And it's very similar French brother, the Renault 35. They in fact look very similar. The only difference was that the Hotchkiss had in fact an gun upgrade, which basically increased the velocity of its main gun. I do believe both tanks were used for perhaps Stuka upgrades, or Wolframen upgrades, although I don't believe in the Hotchkiss. Generally though, the Germans had a tendency of stuffing it on a lot of things. Even the French version of the Bren carrier were in fact stuffed with it, and they even just placed them out in the open and used them as a static rocket battery. And Kettenkrad is lost to the evil T-17, hunting whatever it can find, but able to keep on some pressure. And the Hotchkiss moving in, not really having much to fear from a T-17, having slightly thicker armor and quite a bit more health. The Hotchkiss moves in, opening up on the T-17, doing quite a bit of damage, and we are seeing a small engagement here. Luftwaffe continuing to hunt down the riflemen. 6 kills here, and we're also seeing a flak filling going up, a bit of small defenses here for those Luftwaffe to hold. And the T-17 will be forced to pull back in the face of the Hotchkiss. And firing away its rockets, just in the hope it might catch that T-17 out in the open. But no luck, the T-17 is too fast. The only thing to suffer are the trees. A bit of barbed wire here as well. Not entirely sure why though. But Luftwaffe also trying to again lay down some barbed wire here, sort of minimize enemy movement, force retreat in the face of a second T-17. Lots of T-17s out. And this anti-tank gun moving up here. Oh dear, yes, looks like this flak feeling will be lost. Not entirely sure how he knew of it. And of course this is a rather frustrating thing about the flak feeling. It is alright in terms of killing, but in terms of survivability, it's pretty rubbish actually. It's, I mean, 2 shots from an anti-tank gun, absolutely no misses. It's knocked out, snipers as well. Also rather quick. That's rather the problem with the flak feeling. It's too easy to knock out compared with its price, and you will really need to put up a lot of defenses so to really make it even slightly useful in terms of survivability. There we go. This is now sadly in rather open spot, not much to hold it back. Though further Luftwaffe squads are being thrust into the action. The Luftwaffe heroically fighting the Americans, getting some defensive infantry. Trying to get back behind those sandbags, but they're taking quite a bit of fire and taking quite some losses. 3 Luftwaffe troops already down, forcing the rest to retreat. Panzer is seizing this area. Hotchkiss moving on, opening up with its rockets. And forcing all the Americans to get out of there. And not hitting anything at all. And of course, let's just briefly pause. We are halfway through the game anyways. There are a few things to keep in mind when firing off artillery of the on-map kind. This applies to all basically mortars, Nebelwerfers, Hotchkiss with Stuka upgrades, half-tracks, howitzers, Hummels, all that. There are 2 things that basically determine how accurate they are. And I'll just turn on the fog of war to partly help illustrate. One is in fact visual range. I mean, if a unit can actually see what's going on, basically act as a forward observer, then there will be less spread off the artillery barrage, and of course it can be much more accurate. That's one thing. So for example here, in this case, if it hadn't been here or here with those Panzer Grenadiers, much more accurate. On the other hand, if it was to fire here, it wouldn't really be hitting much, and most likely it would probably be hitting all the water. Just as an example. Another thing that determines it is how far it is away. For example, if it would have been here, much more accurate. On the other hand, if it was as far away as possible, can't really demonstrate right here, can't really get an arc, then but we assume here, then would also be more accurate. So for example, far away, no fog of war, really inaccurate. Close up with line of sight, very accurate. And of course, generally though, having some sort of unit to spot for your artillery, generally good. Keep that in mind. And of course, let's go have a look at the situation. A bit unfortunate for the Americans, having suffered quite some losses. It was an interesting move with the engineers, but I think he might have wasted a bit too much time trying to fortify this point. I'm currently just really hitting him with a lot of infantry. 4 Panzer Grenadier teams, 2 Luftwaffe teams, plus Hotchkisses, Kettenkrats and anti-tank half-tracks, whereas he's not really capable of fighting me, albeit now with a bit of T-17s and anti-tank guns. He is capable of doing a bit of damage. In fact, this has gotten veterancy 1. So not all bad, but at the same time he's not really able to leverage any sort of blows. In particular here, this is a bit dangerous. If further artillery hits him, he needs to sort of hit me at all the different sides where I'm not, instead of trying to hit me where I am. In particular, this one is going to be rather difficult, since it's going to be right in the spot. It's rather the easiest one for both sides, if they hold it, to react to and defend. In particular now, since of course there are numerous paths leading up to it. He would be better off trying to hit there. And here, in fact, he's holding this area. At the same time, though, Panzer Grenadiers are moving to deal with this. For him, of course, he needs to sort of spread out, try to hit different places, and also he needs to get something a bit heavier, perhaps, to deal with that Hotchkiss light tank. I, on the other hand, of course, need to avoid losing Hotchkiss tanks and vehicles. Of course, not lose any infantry teams. Keep up the pressure, and of course, perhaps just try to keep him harassed and of course unable to really do much damage. But let's go over to him. He has gone for infantry, and he does have access to rangers ready to be called in. Question is if they will be called in. And in fact, we are seeing the first ranger team, bazookas in hand, and T-17 coming under a bit of fire. Destroyed engine, my goodness. And T-17 moving on these Panzer Grenadiers. At the same time, Panzer Grenadiers and Luftwaffe team are moving in. Same is the Hotchkiss. Small engagement here does not look like this anti-tank half-track will be surviving. Rangers charging in, coming under fire from the Hotchkiss. Hotchkiss slowly pulling back though, not wanting to feel the wrath of the bazookas. T-17 knocked out, and a bit unfortunate here, being caught out in negative cover. Again, note, negative cover is really bad. If, for example, you just saw 2 Luftwaffe troops being caught out and slaughtered instantly. So not looking good. T-17 though coming under fire from the Hotchkiss. Luftwaffe troops and Panzer grenades will have to get out of there very quickly unless they want to end up very dead. There we go. Further Luftwaffe troops though moving in. Of course, I'm a bit distracted now, having to manage 2 hot spots. Luftwaffe troops here again ending up out in the open. Anti-tank half-track though cleared out by the anti-tank gun, but the Panzer grenades in a heroic move clear out the anti-tank gun. Will have to retreat though. Further fighting here. Rangers taking minimal losses to the Luftwaffe troops who in themselves not having a too happy time. T-17 though taking quite a bit of fire from the Hotchkiss. Hotchkiss might in fact knock it out. There we go. Out of control. Americans slowly moving in here. Not recruiting the anti-tank gun though. But the T-17 is lost to the world, and there are plenty of Luftwaffe troops getting ready once more, being of course easy to reinforce. And there we go, moving about in their nice camouflaged uniforms. Would have been rather nice if the Volksgrenadiers or Grenadiers had those as well, but there we go. Moving about. Hiccups, my dear. Kettenkrats hanging about here, having a Kettenkrat union meeting. And we are seeing a small assault here again. Panzer Grenadiers all sort of acting as the main bit, while the Luftwaffe basically adds volume to the firepower. Catching down a few riflemen, doing quite a bit of damage, forcing them back, while another combined Luftwaffe Panzer Grenadier force moving out. Rather interesting move. Kettenkrats doing a bit of harassment. This area falling into the Panzer Grenadiers, and another Hotchkiss hitting the field, opening up on these riflemen. What will they be able to do? And we are seeing BARs being equipped for the riflemen. And do we also see no supply yard upgrades, and again no medic stations though. Would also have been helpful, I suspect. And 2 riflemen cut down by 1 shot from the Hotchkiss. Hotchkiss does have a bit of splash damage, keep that in mind. And of course it is rather quick, and of course good for harassment, and a bit of, oh dear, getting sticky bombed. Hotchkiss will have to get out of there. In fact, it's gotten a Wurfrahmen upgrade as well. We'll probably have to fire straight into all of these riflemen, perhaps in a chance to get out. Engine is not looking too good. 2 more kills. Rangers forced back in the face of all this firepower. And the Hotchkiss continues to just slowly get away. Killing a few riflemen, and BARs being equipped. My goodness. And there we go. Opening up with its 4 rockets. Hitting only but the trees once more. Not much luck with that. In fact, we are seeing a second Hotchkiss barrage going in. Luftwaffe troops and Panzer Grenadiers securing this area, despite having probably suffered some heavy losses with these Luftwaffe troops. And Panzer Grenadiers here not looking too good. We'll have to pull out. And what is this? We're hearing artillery right here. It seems Luftwaffe troops quick to get out of there. Panzer Grenadiers evacuating the old empty barn and getting out of there as well. And we are seeing a Wirbelwind flak Panzer. Panzer IV with the flak failing in a turret mount, open top though. Looks like it might catch these riflemen. There we go. 1 down. The rest are suppressed. And we'll have to get out of there before the quad mount catches more. In fact, it does. Luftwaffe, no, they did not suffer losses. In fact, they recruit that anti-tank on which the American commander had left behind, which is of course a bit unfortunate. And once more the Luftwaffe getting reinforced and getting ready to move out once more for the fatherland.
They're going after a fuel point, one of ours.
No Fallschirmjäger so far, only Luftwaffe infantry. Looking rather interesting that there actually. And engineers moving into the arc of fire of these Panzer Grenadiers and the anti-tank gun. 1 going down to the anti-tank gun itself. In fact, Luftwaffe, Hotchkiss and Panzer Grenadiers moving about. Engineers lost. Rangers and riflemen moving in. And Luftwaffe opening up on these Rangers. Hotchkiss as well. Hotchkiss misses. Misses again. Further Luftwaffe troops though moving in. Some taking cover behind a small pine tree. The rest just standing out in the open, trusting in the volume, and of course the suppressive volleys of the Panzer Grenadiers. Rangers going down, and artillery being called in. My goodness, get out of there. And so far only one man is lost. Quite fortunate for them, it seems. Very few casualties despite being caught out in the middle of a artillery barrage. Riflemen charging in. Luftwaffe barrage though open. Hotchkiss barrage though opening up on the Luftwaffe. And not hitting much though. Riflemen might be able to clear out this anti-tank gun despite the best attempts of the crew at not dying. But the riflemen are simply too many. And of course here discovering that, right, I can't take this point. Panzer Grenadiers and Hotchkiss moving in. Opening up a very close barrage. Rifleman team lost, and as you see there, very little spread, in fact, on this barrage. Landing very closely to each other. And another artillery barrage, my goodness. Hotchkiss will have to get out of there, escape the artillery. Will it be able to do so? Apparently so. And Riflemen engaging this Hotchkiss, which is not looking too well either, but once more the Luftwaffe moves out in force. Absolutely amazing. In fact, let's go return to me. Still defensive veterans only, though still 12 kills, both meaning 24 kills all in all. Quite good for such cheap infantry. And tearing apart these riflemen. And offensive veterans in one, and the other gets a BAR. And of course realizing I can't take this, I just cut it off, thus denying my American opponent fuel. The Wirbelwind here acting as a sort of protection. And of course another Luftwaffe infantry force. Lots of it, in fact. Hotchkiss holding this area, and my goodness, that was a quick drop in frame rate. Not entirely sure what happened there. Further Panzer Grenadiers moving towards the center. Luftwaffe troops moving in to support as well. Riflemen taking quite a heavy losses. Interestingly, no support except just lots and lots of artillery. No mortars or anything, and he hasn't really seemed to replace anything. In fact, suffering rather heavy attrition in the face of the elite Luftwaffe. Well, not really elite, but it's certainly fun to say it like that. Holding this area, and looks like the Americans might be pushing through here. Getting a Hellcat. Not a Sherman though. The Sherman might actually have been a bit of help against the Hotchkiss, and of course all the infantry supporting it. The Hellcat won't actually be able to do so much. Hotchkiss opening up though, not able to penetrate the frontal armor though. Oh dear. Engine is destroyed. The Hotchkiss might be lost. The Hotchkiss never built to face tank destroyers like that. Main gun destroyed. Opening up with a last vengeance rocket barrage. And cleared out. And Riflemen coming under quite a bit of fire as Luftwaffe and Panzer Grenadiers move in on them. Standing out in the open. Will they be able to retake the point? Apparently not. Instead, they will be taking extreme casualties. One infantry team lost. Second lost. Where is the tank destroyer though? Still there. But not really able to do much against these Panzer Grenadiers. It's a bit unfortunate like that. And once more this area coming under control. And another Hotchkiss lost to the Hellcat, gaining veterans 1 in the process, increasing the speed. Fallschirmjäger being called out, perhaps to do a bit of damage with the Panzerfausts. And what is this? A second Hellcat, but nothing to really deal with my infantry. I mean, he really has the drop here. I haven't really gotten much anti-tank, of course, since I've mostly faced infantry and rangers. Does he really use it? No, instead he just relies on tank destroyers, which are not really meant to deal with infantry. And that's really what he needs to deal with. He needs to deal with the Luftwaffe. He needs to deal with the Panzer Grenadiers. What he does not need to deal with is much in terms of armor, and the Hotchkisses could easily have been dealt with by those Shermans. And now taking on the base, clearing out the flak feelings, but again, not able to do anything. In fact, he's barely got any infantry again, because he focused on the wrong thing. Is sort of think tank destroyers are not tanks. In fact, Panzer now being equipped, opening up Panzerfaust as well. Veterans 2 on this, increasing the penetration. And Panzer Grenadiers will be in need of some reinforcements.
Hitting our base. They are hitting our base.
Hellcats opening up on the base. The Panzer Support Command looming over the 2 tank destroyers. Of course, unable to actually do anything against them. Panzer 6 though opening up, and Panzerfaust as well. Rear armor hits. Very little infantry from the American commander. Since again most resources have been spent on M18 Hellcat, which again can't do very much against the infantry, which is what I'd rather have a lot of. It's sort of a misjudgment in what he needed. A most tragic one.
Lost a unit.
Second Hellcat coming under quite a bit of fire as well.
We are losing territory.
Americans pushing towards the center. Main gun destroyed on 1 Hellcat. And second one needs to get out of there as well, although the first one really needs to as well. Both, in fact, need to get out of there, in particular this one, since it has no main gun and no heavy machine guns either upgraded. Apparently managed to escape by dint of sheer luck. Riflemen getting torn apart here once more. The Luftwaffe moves in, opening up. And while he was able to do quite a bit of damage in my main base, he didn't really damage what was necessary to damage. He didn't kill any infantry. And so in the long run, he won't actually have gained anything. Because he didn't get a Sherman, which was rather what he actually needed. And I bet you, yes indeed, he had the fuel for it even. Tisk, tisk. Rangers though charging in, but not enough. Got to go. GG. Interesting, but nonetheless, yes, GG indeed. Turn an interesting fight. We saw the 4 engineer barracks start. We saw quite a bit, in fact, of lots of different things. Too bad we didn't see a lot of mines from the Americans or any sort of high yield strategy. Of course, any armor when he actually needed it. And of course, just setting up a flak 88 there. Luftwaffe retreating there in the face of some riflemen pulling back for a slightly better position. So what can we learn from this? Well, infantry half-tracks are nice. So are anti-tank guns. Flak railings though, not too good. Be careful with those. You really need a lot of defense. You really need to avoid them become so easily casualties, which is a bit unfortunate. And I do wish something would be done about it, just to make them slightly more worth their cost, or perhaps just decrease the cost a bit. Luftwaffe infantry, the unsung heroes of this battle, quite able to do a lot of casualties. They are in fact quite decent. Again, with offensive infantry they will of course be more accurate and fire faster. Of course, having them is not bad. They of course repair faster as well and can lay down sort of defenses. So generally, nice infantry. Use them to support your Panzer Grenadiers and they will do you quite well. We also learn a bit of artillery about how line of sight and range affects the spread of the rockets. And of course they're generally nice. We saw Hotchkiss doing in fact quite a nice job against infantry and armor. And what else can we really learn about this? Well, of course, be careful with spreading out your infantry. Remember to get support weapons when dealing with entrenched infantry positions. And don't just rely on artillery either. As you saw, it didn't really do him too well this time around. Although at the same time I've seen it do quite effectively other times. But I really think his major mistake here though was not going for a Sherman. Instead going for tank destroyers, which was rather nice in dealing with the base, but at the same time the Shermans could have done that and cleared out my infantry, and in fact would have been a much greater threat to me. So be careful about using tank destroyers instead of tanks. They are not used like that. And if your opponent knows that, he's not going to be fooled by it either. So keep that in mind, and cheers.